Welcome back, everyone, to the Next Gen Jets show. I'm your host, Jack Cotter, alongside my co-host, Chris Grasso. Unfortunately, Connor will probably be a little late to this episode. He said he'll be back soon. Hopefully, he'll be able to catch the episode today. But anyway, we got a good stream going for you guys tonight on this lovely Sunday evening. Chris, I'm gonna throw it over to you, man. What's going on, bro? How you been?
I've been great, man. Obviously, just chilling out. I'm excited to start back up the show with you, and it's gonna be great, man.
I had a great week with you last week, obviously at Connor's Lake House. It was good time. I had a great time. I want to hear your thing. What was your? I want to hear your opinion. What was your favorite part about last week?
My favorite part is probably the tubing. It was awesome. Me and you midair hanging on for dear life. That was fun.
I can't believe you've still never been tubing before. Tubing's I would say for me, tubing is probably my favorite thing to do in the summer. Like I absolutely love tubing.
Yeah, I mean, I love being around lake houses in general. I love going to the beach. It's just all fun.
Yeah, but anyway, glad to have you on with me, Chris, today. But anyway, we have a very special episode today for you guys today. We're gonna be talking about, as you guys know in the title, some New York Jets players that they need, that the Jets either need to extend or re-sign right now as we speak. So first, before we get into that, I'm going to quickly say that make sure you enter Connor's raffle by gifting memberships or sending super chats into the chat to get your way into Connor's raffle in order to win your prizes, including a signed Sauce Gardner memorabilia. But let's get into the first topic of the day. Chris, let's head over to some new deals that I think the New York Jets should get, and who I think there's a surprise name in here for me who I don't think will get a deal, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But the first person I want to talk about for me is Jermaine Johnson. I feel like Jermaine Johnson, of course, coming off a ruptured Achilles last year in week 2 against the Tennessee Titans. A very unfortunate injury for him. I love Jermaine Johnson. I think, especially in that 2023 season, I believe he was such a monster for us. And even in the second half of 2022, one of his best highlights was against Josh Allen, where Allen rolled out of the pocket in week 9 of 2022. Allen was able to get him within a snap. So I think that, Jermaine Johnson's a great player, and I think he should be one of the guys that the Jets should prioritize in trying to re-sign to this team. So, of course, like I said, he's coming off a bad Achilles tear, but, when he is very healthy, in my opinion, he's a very explosive and elusive player. He's very good at disrupting plays, and he's very good at rushing the quarterback, like I explained a couple minutes ago. He also showed like great awareness as well. Take a look at the back of that Philadelphia game 2 years ago in 2023, where he was all over Jalen Hurts, all over those screens. He was able to bat down a lot of screens. Like, his awareness was just awesome in that game. And take a look at that Cleveland Browns game as well, where he picked six Joe Flacco in that game, a former Jets quarterback. So, this is just one name out of a few names that I'll list here that I believe the New York Jets should prioritize in re-signing and extending his 5th-year option. So, Chris, I want to get your thoughts on that, on Jermaine Johnson, real quick.
Yeah, I mean, everything you said is so true, and we just have to hope we have to see how much of that explosiveness he retains coming off the super unfortunate and devastating injury. So I don't think he's a number one priority for me right now, but as soon as he proves that he can get out there this season and go back to being 100% rushing the passer, using that awareness, batting down screens, batting down passes. I mean, as soon as we see that after the season's over, even at mid-season maybe, if he's going on to having a crazy season, I think we should get him extended. And along that same topic, I mean, if Will McDonald shows, I mean, that same position, if Will McDonald shows that he can really refine some of his run stuffing technique, and he can become more of an all around player, I think he is really up, like right next to Jermaine, because we obviously know that edge is such a premium position in the league these days, and you really need a good edge to have a good D line and be a great team. So ultimately, I mean, that's super important, getting Jermaine and Will McDonald, depending on how they both play. I mean, this season is going to be very telling for both of them. I think Jermaine, especially, seeing how he comes back, but we need to see how if McDonald really can refine his run stuffing techniques, and if not, he's just going to be more of that kind of guy who really just gets you sacks, and that's his specialty. But ultimately, I'm excited to see how this plays out for our end room.
Makes you wonder if we should have traded up for Abdul Carter in the draft, because, a lot of people are saying if JJ doesn't come back great from his injury. People are saying that people are supposedly people are going to start bashing on us for not drafting Abdul Carter because, of
Oh my
course,
God. That's like that's the most undeserved shit I think I've ever heard. There's no way people are gonna bash us for not giving up future assets when we're in no position. We are in no position to do
we
that.
don't
But
need an
it's
edge
not
now.
even a need. And you hear the news about Jermaine.
That's depth.
Exactly. You hear the news about Jermaine hitting PRs and stuff. So I mean that is not where my priorities were at. I was either at Warren or members. I mean I
Yeah,
think they just had a good draft.
yeah, of course, I just really don't get how people are saying people are rushing that, automatically assuming that JJ isn't going to be good off of his Achilles tear. For me personally, I think defensive ends are probably the best players to recover from an Achilles tear, just because they're so used to using that tendon all the time that I feel like one, it does put them at risk still, yes, but two, I feel like defensive ends, defensive tackles, I feel like they're the best at recovering from those injuries, just because they use that tendon a lot, which means it'll build up more. It'll
Strength
build up more
easy.
strength in that tendon. So I don't get why people are saying. Of course, Abdul Carter, I believe, no doubt, was the best player overall coming out of this draft. But I mean, when you have a guy like Jermaine Johnson, who really has shown signs of greatness in the league when he's fully healthy, you can't just count that out after just one season-ending injury. I mean, look at Saquon Barkley. He tore his ACL a few years ago, and he's the best running back in the NFL by far right now. He's had the best running back season in a long, long time, arguably since 2012, Adrian Peterson, arguably. So, JJ definitely, like we said, just to recap, JJ for me is just one of those guys that I really want to prioritize in re-signing, and it sounds like you really want to re-sign him as well, Chris. Another guy I want to move on to that I really think the Jets should prioritize in re-signing is Elijah Vera Tucker,
That's what
offensive
I'm
guard
saying.
drafted in 2021. You know, his potential really is sky high when he is fully healthy. He's only allowed 4 sacks in his 28 games played in the NFL. I got to the point where ESPN and others emphasize his instincts. His quick recognition of stunts and blitzes along with crisp execution of varied assignments. I think he's very crisp. He's very he's able to hold his ground. I think, especially as a guard. I don't think he works as a tackle. I will say that I do not think Elijah Vera Tucker works as a tackle. I'm so glad they decided to move him to guard, especially left guard. I believe he's right guard this
Yeah,
season. John
keep him at
Simpson, I
guard.
believe, our left guard. Yeah, you really got to keep him at guard. I don't think he just has the build for an offensive lineman to be a tackle. He really doesn't have those long arms to be an offensive tackle. But when we've seen him at guard, again, he's thrived at guard. 4 sacks in 28 games played. I mean, I think when this guy is fully healthy, he is a top 10 guard in the NFL for sure. I really think he has the potential to be a top 10 offensive guard in the NFL when fully healthy. He's 6'5", 308 pounds, and he combines ability and strength. Those combinations that he has shown are through the roof. Like his boasting, he has really quick feet, excellent lateral mobility, which is another one of those things I really like about Elijah Vera Tucker, and smooth movement to the second level. So, I mean, when you talk about Elijah Vera Tucker, I think of a very big, strong, elusive, athletic offensive lineman who, when healthy, has the potential to be a top 10 offensive guard in this entire league. So, Chris, I want to get your thoughts on Elijah Vera Tucker, because I believe he is one of these key guys that I believe the New York Jets should look to re-sign.
I agree 100%. That's what I was going to say. And I mean, I think Elijah Vera Tucker is great, but the key thing is when healthy. We haven't seen him be fully healthy in a while, but when he is healthy, he's an all-pro caliber player. So, I mean, I think it is 100% a necessity for them to extend Elijah Vera Tucker, but not now. I mean, I think the Jets put themselves in a good position by extending Garrett and Sauce. They don't really. It's not really necessary or like 100% dire need to extend anybody else at this current time. I think a lot of it depends on how this season plays out. Like Elijah Vera Tucker at the sea, if he stays healthy, great. Give him a bag next offseason. I mean, Brees Hall was to mention. I mean, I would love to see him extend Brees Hall, but it's not really a necessity because you have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis behind him, and also the running back market is not that great right now. But I still do think if Brees has a great season this year, they should extend him and not I mean at least franchise tag, but maybe even past extend. But at this point, like in the off season, excuse me, right now, it's not really a necessity to extend anybody else. I mean, we got Garrett locked down, we got Sauce locked down. I mean, Elijah Vera Tucker, yes, great. Just prove to me you can stay healthy for another season, play great football like you can. and throughout the season, and he'll get a bag next offseason. Jermaine, same thing. Prove to me you can come back great off that Achilles tear, and great, you'll get a bag next offseason. Brees, play good after having a down season, and you'll get a bag. We're just a franchise tag next season. So ultimately, it comes down to how these players perform this season. So right now, I think the Jets are in a fantastic spot, financials wise, and like having your players locked down long term wise, because you just got the two pillars of your offense and defense locked down. Now everything else just needs to fall into place with the depth, well, with seeing how this coaching staff plays out. But ultimately, I'm super pumped and hyped for this season, man. I've my expectations are through the roof for this coaching staff.
That's the hope because these players want to win. Uh, Overall, I'll just let the clip play for itself.
You play to win the game. You play to win.
Wise words that you do play to win the game, which is why I hope the New York Jets to re-sign all of these players and I really hope, Chris, you're right that this coaching staff will bring us to the promised land. But I want to go back to touching up on Breece Hall, like you mentioned there. Breece Hall he's a very tough option for me because as much as I want to say the New York Jets should and will re-sign him, I don't see it, unfortunately. I believe this is Breece Hall's last season being a New York Jet. Hell, maybe he won't even finish the season as a New York Jet. If he struggles down the line from weeks 1 through 8, I could see a world where he's gone by the trade deadline, whether that be to the Washington Commanders or a running back needy team. So, I mean, it's tough, again, because he's shown signs and potential of being a great running back in this league, especially in 2023. That was his best season, arguably. He was arguably a top 10 running back at the end of that season. And he had so much expectations heading into that 2024 season that ended up being his worst season by far. I guarantee you the majority of his decline is a big part of it, is because of that ACL tear he had in his rookie season. I mean, he was just a completely different player in that 2022 season before that ACL tear. I believe that really declined his speed a lot, that declined his mobility, his elusiveness, his awareness has definitely declined too over the years. Or especially because 2022 he didn't really have that bad of vision. 2023 I did see it get arguably worse. 2024 he had terrible vision. I mean, you go look at that Bills game on Monday Night Football back in Week 6. There were so many misread plays where Breece Hall just couldn't read anything for crap. So that's why I think Breece Hall's tough because, like I said, he has the potential to be a top running back in this league, but his speed, his elusiveness, his vision, they're not really that great, especially for a running back in the NFL. Aaron Glenn even said it himself that he's going to split all three running backs in Hall, Davis, and Allen all reps up equally.
What else is he going to say, though? What else is he going to say? I think that's like the proper standard answer from a coach. I think that's what you would see.
But didn't you say he wants to be
everywhere.
disciplinary? Like, if you're a disciplinary coach, you have to say how it is, right? So he said it how it is.
No, I mean, just because you're going to give opportunities to all three backs doesn't mean that Breece is not going to be able to shine. I mean,
I think it makes him harder for him.
I think if we let Breece go, it's going to be the Saquon situation all over again. Like when you go to a team with better, like a team with a coaching staff that's able to have solid gap schemes and an offensive line coach who isn't brain dead, you're going to see a guy like Breece Hall thrive. So ultimately, it comes down to the offensive line coach. It comes down to the blocking. Bless you, and for Breece Hall to be able to get some production. Ultimately, I have no doubt that Breece Hall is going to be able to put up a monster season, especially with the scheme tailored to him and Justin Fields' rushing ability. So it's going to be exciting for sure.
See, that's where I disagree, right? Because I feel like if you split the reps between all three running backs, especially in a contract year for Breece Hall, he's going to get less reps, he's going to get less opportunities. And these younger and more elusive, speedier, and better vision running backs like Isaiah Davis, who have been very, very high on entering this season, will ultimately start getting more reps than Breece Hall if Breece Hall starts to play the same way he did last season. That's the unfortunate part. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded at the deadline, because if Aaron Glenn splits all these three guys equally within reps, and one of these guys is playing better than Breece Hall, I could see a universe where Hall you're packing by week 9. Or by the end of the season.
I don't see that. I mean, I understand the criticism about Brees Hall's vision, how frustrating it can be to watch this, but we have to understand Brees Hall is a certain kind of running back, and they did not do a good job, like tailoring the scheme towards his skill set. A and B, it's hard to have good vision and to save like Brees Hall is constantly trying to save plays because the offensive line would break down, and the run blocking was not the part what it should have been. So with a better offensive line, better coach, better offensive line coach, and hopefully a guy who can scheme open some lanes for Brees Hall to actually use what he's made for, his burst and his power, which he will get back another year, year off the ACL. Like really, Brees, like the it is there. The lining is there for Brees Hall to have a crazy season. So I mean, listen. He was very disappointing last year. I know some people are scarred. Took him number 4 at fantasy, like in fantasy drafts, like I did, and had him
Oh,
watching had the
I took
worst.
him last season.
Watching
That's
had
why
the
I went
worst
3-14.
season.
That's why I went 3-14 in my league last year.
That's just because you're not good at fantasy football. It's
I'm
not
not. I'm
Brandon
not.
on Brees Hall, but
I'm not good at
but
fantasy football.
but I think Brees Hall could have a really good season, and I don't see a world where we trade him at the deadline. If so, I think I'd be vehemently against that. Even though I do like Brandon Allen and Isaiah Davis, but I think Brees Hall,
I
like
love
when
Isaiah
when
Davis.
when you when you have a running back like Brees Hall, you do not get rid of him. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that if you force feed him the ball,
But
he's
he's
gonna get you
not though. I
production.
mean, you've seen it in certain plays, but did you see the majority of last season? No. Chris, can you name me more than 6 runs that he had that were very popping off runs by Brees Hall that made you think, "Wow, this guy should deserve a second contract with the Jets"? I can't. The
I,
really
I'm
only
I'm I'm
the
gonna
few runs I
I'm gonna defend Brees Hall a little bit here. I'm gonna point to his scheme. I'm gonna point to your quarterback. Even though I tend to lean more towards the favorable. I like Rodgers. I did like Rodgers as our
yeah,
quarterback,
I will
but
say,
that could be a part. That could the scheme that he brought in and the type of
yeah,
offense that
that's
he's runs could be a reason. I don't believe the fault of the run game is Rodgers checking out a run place. I mean, he checked out a
what I was
run.
gonna say. I
He,
will
no, no,
say
he checked out
Rodgers
a
did
run plays
audible out of
because
run
he
plays
knew it was
quite a bit.
destined to fail due to the shitty coaching we had on our
What do
offensive
you mean? Hold
line.
on, hold on. Time out. I was at this game. I was literally right there when Rodgers called an audible. This play was at the Denver game. I don't know if you remember watching this. Do you remember when the Jets were at the 1 yard line and they could have like plunged it into the end zone with Braylon Allen? But no, Rodgers went kill, check the play to a pass. I mean, I think I will say Brees did not have really a good season last year, but I could definitely see where some people are coming from when saying Rodgers started checking the plays and not giving him enough opportunities. I could see
I mean,
a universe. I could see that. Yes, but at the same
people don't
time,
give people don't cut enough slack to the entire like people don't pay enough attention to the fact that how Rodgers like runs his own offense and really he was basically the offensive coordinator for this team. I mean he
and
whatever
that's
he
not good.
yeah, no, it is. It's not.
It
It's not
barely
good.
works.
Whatever he said goes. And his style of offense is very complicated, and it relies on heavily on him and the receivers being on the same page. And that work
I'd say
really
it's
is
Devontae
hard.
Adams.
It's hard to gain in one training camp, and it's hard to gain in one offseason. Also, like we would have had last year and this year if Rodgers never got hurt for the whole team to get on the same page with Rodgers' style of offense. And by the way, when Rodgers got hurt, they were probably scrambling, which is why the season was kind of a disaster in 2023 when he got hurt. But like there's a whole scheme that comes with having this man at the quarterback position, so it takes a lot, and the Jets were just not really there. Especially because we had a young team, young wide receiver one in Garrett Wilson, who's gonna it's hard to adjust. That's why you saw Rodgers and Devontae see some success when that reunion happened and that reunion took place, because Rodgers and Devontae are already on the same page from Green Bay. I mean, I think it was just a slow transition for the Jets getting on the same page with Rodgers' scheme, and that showed in the run game. It showed everywhere. The entire season was a disaster. So with Justin Fields, Aaron Glenn, Tanner Angstrom putting in their own schemes, I'm really looking forward to moving on. I love Justin Fields as our quarterback, and I really think that this kind of offense, the RPO, is going to lead to Brees Hall having so many more explosive plays like we saw in his rookie season.
Oh, one of the things that Brees Hall does best is running outside, which is what my man Chris B stated here. Emphasize on the outside zone run scheme. This scheme utilizes a
Thank you.
lot of zone
Thank you.
read concepts, aims to maximize the potential of Brees. I love this
Thanks.
comment
I've
because
said I've
I
said so
totally
many
think
times.
I've been saying this. Outside zone is where Brees shines, and they did the exact opposite last season. They ran Brees on the outside, or excuse me, Brees on the inside, Braylon on the outside. I mean, Braylon, he could be good on the outside. We saw it again. We saw it in Tennessee last season. Maybe we have a 1-2 punch combo with Brees and Braylon or Brees and Isaiah, whatever the 1-2 punch combo becomes. But Brees shines on the outside. I cannot emphasize this enough. The most of the runs you have seen that are best from Brees Hall, actually, I think maybe all have come on outside zone. Maybe the only inside zone one that was good was against the Broncos 2 years ago in that Week 5 game, where he had that 60-something yard touchdown run, I believe.
Yeah, I
against
remember
Denver. That. I think that's probably the only inside zone run I can really remember that he had a great run on. So yeah. I love this comment here by Crispy, loyal fan to this channel. Can't thank you enough, Crispy, always for tuning into the show. Let's go over to this comment right here by HaveMo63. They're going to be plenty worried about Fields in the 3-headed monster running back room. That's going to open things up to anything. Let's go. That's 100%. The hope. I mean, I really hope that this offense is going to be a run-first offense, which I have probably 95%.
There's no doubt about that. I want to go back to what Crispy was saying for a sec. I mean, how was I sitting on my couch knowing that to run the ball outside to Brees and inside to Braylon, and then the Jets coaching staff didn't know? Like that's like the most obvious thing.
You had Todd Downing calling your plays and Jeff Ulbrich as your intern.
Seeing how they messed that up, how am I supposed to trust the development of anybody, including Malachi Corley and people love to trash Brees? I mean, this is who you have running your team who doesn't even know the basics of how to use your superstar players. It's bullshit. I can't even. Don't get me started.
Yeah. I mean, back to half moment. I really hope with this run first offense, I really do hope this offense shines. And I really hope here's the plan. Here's the hope, at least. I know Garrett Wilson is our really only wide receiver right now that's able to produce, that is shown a lot of top 10 worthy conversation for a wide receiver. But if the run game really, really works, the defense will start to bite. They'll start to bite, leaving Garrett a little more freedom in that secondary to run a lot of, his, how do I say this? A lot of his shifty routes, I guess you could say. That's just the hope, right? I don't think that's going to happen. I think teams will pick up on Garrett very quickly, especially since AG said, get Garrett the ball as much as possible. And how it doesn't even have to be, medium, deep routes. It could just be short, quick passes, RPOs, all of this stuff that Garrett Wilson has shown time and time again that he's good at. Hopefully my hope is just at least that if the defense starts to bite on this run first offense, hopefully it'll leave Garrett a little more breathing room. But, that's just the hope. I really hope this offense really, really works out a lot. Here's a good comment from Alan. Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this. Sign Noah Fant. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to get, in my opinion, a veteran into this locker room, but I feel like that's where you already got Stone Smart from, right? But for me, my personal opinion, I'd rather have Noah Fant over Stone Smart any day as a tight end. So again, I wouldn't be mad about this, especially because you're A, bringing in veteran presence, B, a reliable tight end. So especially to mentor Mason Taylor, which I hope Mason Taylor can really, break out as a Jets starting tight end. And I'm really starting to grow on Mason Taylor. At first I did not really like the draft pick, but I'm gaining hope. I've heard some good things about him in minicamp and OTAs. You just got to hope for the best. I really, same thing with Arian Smith. I guess this is about Arian Smith. I'm starting to grow a little bit of Arian Smith as well. Started to watch a little bit of his college days. I definitely see some potential within those two. But Chris, I want to get your thoughts on Noah Fant here. Alan's comment.
I think with Mason Taylor obviously slotted in as your tight end one. All the smoke about Jeremy Rucker unfortunately making the team, which I completely disagree with. And then you have Stone Smart they paid guaranteed money to. I don't really see them carrying a fourth tight end unless Noah Fant can really offer you massive, massive upside in the blocking game. I mean, I just don't see why this would be necessary at this point. I'd rather spend that money at interior offensive line. Now you go to get Noah Fant or receiver. I mean, I don't think Noah Fant is a desperate need for a team right now, especially considering you're gonna if Rucker, God forbid, makes the team.
Yeah, Rucker is just awful. I really don't know why Rucker's really on the team at this point. I'm guessing depth, but again, could have signed another guy, or you could have drafted Harold Fanning Jr. or not Harold Fanning, excuse me, Jackson Hawes in the 6th round, who I was so high on. Jackson Hawes, oh my gosh, he would have been such a good blocker for us. If you had that, especially if we drafted Tyler Warren, oh my gosh, it would have been one hell of a duo. I that receiving tight end and you got that blocking tight end.
See, that's tough. Like now that the draft is over, I can sort of almost see why why people like the member people want us to pick member. I mean, I now I kind of get it because we have Mason Taylor now second round. I mean, obviously. Like Tyler Warren would have been great, yeah, it would have been fun. But like Mason Taylor is gonna do, man. He's gonna be great. I mean, he just needs
We
a
don't
little
know
bit of
though. That's the
a little
thing.
bit. He just
Like,
needs
he
time.
struggled a
I
lot
mean, we
last
don't know
season.
about Tyler Warren either, and I like the idea of having our offensive line
Style.
solidified. So I mean, I'm looking back on, I'm really happy where his team is at. And, it just comes down to trusting AG, which I need to just get
I
comfortable
really
doing.
hope.
Get comfortable having a coach we can trust, Jet fans, please.
I've heard nothing but great things about him. So, I mean, that's a good sign. I mean, to be fair, we also heard the same thing about Robert Saleh in 2021 when we first hired. So, I
So
really hope this isn't just a repeat of Saleh and it's all just a hype train. I really hope that's just
it
all
should
it's
be
on a hype
good.
train. I know you're really. I know you love Aaron Glenn. I think we all know this, Chris. You
Yes,
love.
Aaron Glenn just was feeling some type of way, bro. Aaron Glenn is that guy.
What? Wait, hold on. What?
My name is Grasso and I love the Jets more than everyone else. I am a highlight warrior. Aaron Glenn is the best coach they could have hired, but under 4 games won and he must be fired. I love every 2026.
QB is
Here's
based
what I do
on.
know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit. Here's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit. Here's what I do know.
Thought I just run that one twice there because AG is a leader of men for sure. But I want to get to the final player that I have right now to hopefully re-sign is none other than star linebacker Quincy Williams.
Bam.
I think he
I
has
could
he
not
has great
agree
leadership, his
more.
athleticism, and his overall play. I believe is re-sign worthy, especially because he logged 4 straight 100 plus tackle seasons, which is absolutely insane for a linebacker, including 116 total tackles with 14 tackles for loss just last season in 2024, and especially because in 2023 alone he earned first team All Pro, showcasing that he's an elite level linebacker, and especially because over the last couple seasons Williams has really stepped up as a vocal leader, and I really think he is captain worthy for this team. Again, speaking on captain worthy, and especially because I think it just ties in so well to how we're changing the culture here in New York. I think why not just keep a guy who recently won an All-Pro just 2 years ago. He still had a good season last season and is an ultimate vocal leader, right? Because, Williams re-signing would signal an organizational shift and both organizational stability, right? Especially because if we're trying to change the culture with AG and Darren Mougey, or Darren Mougey. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Chris, is it Mougey or Mougey?
It's still Mougey, bro. It's Mougey.
Mougey. All right. But anyway, I think those two go hand in hand. You really got to get a guy who is a great leader, great player, while you're also trying to change the organization and the culture. So it goes both ways when it comes to re-signing this guy. And I feel like the Jets must make it a top priority, especially because if he's going to have an all-pro season like he did 2 seasons ago, which I'm very hopeful he will. So, Chris, I want to get your thoughts on Quincy Williams here before we move on to the next topic.
No, I'm 100% with you on this. People say, "Oh, we just let Quincy Williams walk." That's nonsense. Quincy Williams is an explosive player and can go from one end of the field to the other to make tackles for you. I mean, he's great. He is great. I think Quincy Williams also, even though he's kind of on the older side, he still has good years left in him, and I think it would be dumb for this
For
team to
sure.
let him go.
For sure. Great comment here by Chris B. Again, I feel for our New York Jets establishing a toughness as part of building a winning culture. Absolutely.
Aaron
You have to
Glenn.
build toughness. And again, another comment here. Quincy blitzing hopefully produces sacks, tackles for loss. Absolutely. I
Can
think
you go back to the
especially
McCown comment for a second? No, could you go back to the toughness comment for a second?
yeah,
I was about to say, like, this is exactly what you get with Aaron Glenn. I mean, I could you
absolutely.
imagine where would be with Josh McClown as our head coach right now? We would not be saying we're establishing a toughness culture.
You
Aaron
don't
Glenn is
know
the guy.
until he does something. I mean, a former quarterback, great mind of the game. I wouldn't be surprised if McCown did ultimately end up being a good head coach for us. I wouldn't say Super Bowl contender worthy coach, but I wouldn't have
The
been
Jets
surprised.
were in no position to hire McCown because
I wanted Vrabel. I really
yeah,
wanted Vrabel.
I want to Vrabel. I was kind of heartbroken when week 18 when he signed with the Patriots. Actually, right after the Jet game ended, there was like rumors that he wasn't going to go to the Jets and he was going to the Patriots.
I think
And
it was so weak at
I was
first.
so broken in like the worst way possible. I mean, I was so sad, and I realized that like Aaron Glenn, man, this is legit. This Aaron
At least
Glenn
Glenn
guy
was
is
my
legit.
top three. Glenn, I think my top three were Vrabel, Ben Johnson, and Aaron Glenn. I think those three guys were my top three, just because I really wanted an offensive mind in Ben Johnson, which I hope he does well in Chicago. I'm interested to see what he does, but I want to go back to this comment here again. You know, I really hope that Quincy's blitzes will work out with New York. We've seen a lot of good blitzes coming from Quincy Williams. Go back to that play in Green Bay just 3 years ago when the Jets actually played Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, where that absolutely nasty tackle Quincy Williams had on Aaron Jones. I'm not sure if it was an intended blitz, but he still got into that backfield right away. And when Quincy Williams finds ways to get into that backfield, he's unstoppable. Truly unstoppable, which is why I feel like Quincy Williams definitely deserves to be paid. Chris, again, what are your final thoughts on Quincy?
And first of all, you can always count on Jack Cotter to pull out random Jet moments that happen anytime in the past 5 years since 2020.
Jets.
That never fails,
Since like
baby.
2017, probably. Maybe even 2015. I don't know.
That's crazy. Never fails. You're unk, buddy. But anyway, yeah, Quincy Williams is great. They definitely need to resign him. It's a no brainer. Keep Quinnen happy. It all ties together.
Again, just to remind everyone, gifted memberships and super chats go a long way here for the channel. It'll get you, especially it'll enter you into Connor's raffle, get you a ticket into Connor's raffle to win some prizes, including some Sauce Gardner memorabilia. We'll talk more about that later. But anyway, Chris, let's get back to topic 2 and our final topic of the day, Malachi Corley. And does he really need to earn a spot on the roster? I want to get your opinion first before I say mine.
Yes, 130% yes. People who say the work ethic concerns, people who are concerned about that, like this is what we brought Aaron Glenn in for, man. Aaron Glenn should be able to get rid of that, get that nonsense mentality out of here and instill a New York, no pun intended, mentality in him. And I think really Malachi Corley is just what we need. We need a receiver who's going to provide us some explosive plays through end arounds, maybe out of the backfield, whatever you want to do with him. I think we need another receiver besides Garrett, who's going to actually get you some meaningful reps and explosive plays. And I think Corley is a perfect player for that. If he can show improvement throughout camp, shine in the preseason, turn heads in the preseason, and then really just make an impact in the season, that would be so great to see. But I think the first step to that is making sure, A, you're 100% healthy, B, your mind is 100% right, and you're in the right mental state to go out and play New York Jets football. And to make sure really you just have the Aaron Glenn mindset. So I there's no doubt that Aaron Glenn will be able to do that to him. And if he's not the right guy, then fine, move on, find somebody else. But I really think Malachi Corley should be an impact player on this team this year.
Can't wait.
Can't wait to see what Malachi Corley does this season. But yes, I do agree. I think he needs to earn a roster spot, especially because it's a competition with a lot of depth receivers this year, because you still have Xavier Gibson on the roster. You have Arian Smith, who's a rookie. In my opinion, I believe he ultimately will get the receivers a spot on the roster, whether that be wide receiver 4 behind, Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, Allen Lazard, possibly, maybe even wide receiver 3 if he works with this new offense. Like I said, I believe I've said this on the show before, you got to use him in a lot of things that I believe he'll be good at, RPOs, get him in a lot of RPOs, a lot of bubbles, a lot of screens, a lot of short and quick passes. I know this play ended up being a huge mess for Malachi Corley and the Jets, but take a look back at that Texans play he had last year where he dropped the ball in the end zone. Before that, I mean, he was shifting all over the place. He was slithering like a snake before he dropped that ball in the end zone. I think that's just a sneak peek of what Malachi Corley's true potential really is here for the Jets. So I think if the Jets use him right, and I think if he excels in training camp, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 by the start of the season. Something he does need to work on, though, is discipline. Perfect example is going back again to that Texans play, dropping the ball in the end zone, especially. I get he's a rookie, but again, you're an NFL player now, man. You really got to have discipline. I really hope he grows a lot of discipline this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Malachi Corley, is able to to do this year with the Jets. I think Glenn even emphasizes himself. So he emphasized that Corley will get his shot. He said this in an interview. Corley will get his shot, and I quote from Aaron Glenn. Corley will get his shot, but again, that first requires his availability and maybe in the player's mind a bit of attitude. So maybe there's a bit of an attitude problem there as well for Malachi Corley, whether that be arrogance, again, discipline problems, maybe a locker room guy, maybe not even a good locker room guy. So I don't know. We didn't get any really good details, but Glenn mentioned attitude, which again I can definitely feel like is one of the things that Aaron Glenn really looks for in a guy on his football team, to have a good attitude. And if you don't have a good attitude on this football team, maybe there's not a roster spot for you. Maybe you're a cancer to the locker room. Again, we haven't heard any official reports yet about Malachi Corley, but if this is coming from the words from Coach Glenn himself, then I probably trust that over any source of ESPN or any journalist on ESPN anyway. So that's a little concerning. Chris, I want to get your thoughts on Malachi Corley supposedly having some attitude and discipline problems.
Yeah, I mean that's what another thing to love about Coach Glenn. How he's not gonna sugarcoat anything. He's just gonna give it to you straight. I mean, that's I think what Malachi Corley needs, to be sat down and say, listen, you need to fix this. You need to fix this attitude. You need to fix and get your mind straight, or else you're not gonna succeed. You're not gonna have any time here. I mean, really, it would be not devastating, but it would be extremely disappointing if Malachi Corley does not make this roster, for him and for the New York Jet fan base, because really, I mean, not for the fan base. I mean, if he's going to be an attitude problem and he's just going to be like a locker room cancer, then great, get him out of here. That's actually for the better. But like, what could have been, man, trading up to take this guy, and he's now getting cut from you, not even making your team. That'll be tragic. So he needs to lock in, for lack of better words, and he needs to just get. And if he does, he can be he can really make some noise in preseason. But he just needs to get in the right state of mind. So that's what I'm hoping to see out of him.
Here's a couple more names from Chris B. He says Jermaine Johnson, AVT. John Simpson's an interesting one. I would like to see Simpson stay with the Jets. Brees Hall, Quincy Williams, Will McDonald, as you mentioned earlier, Chris. I would love to see McDonald get extended based off what we saw last season. But again, I think he does need to work on his run game a little bit. Andre Cisco, Tony Adams. Those are very interesting ones, because Andre Cisco, he's shown some signs of greatness in Jacksonville. And I think that's the whole reason why the Jets signed him. Aaron Glenn really wants these tough physical guys. And Andre Cisco is a very physical guy. So if he pans up to what a lot of Jet fans are thinking he'll be, then I really hope the Jets extend him. I believe, did he only get a 1-year deal? 2-year deal?
Yes, I think it's a 1-year deal. And listen, this is the next duct tape to put on my number 8 Elijah Moore jersey. First it was Rodgers, now it's a Cisco duct tape. So this guy better work out. I'm pretty confident about Cisco. I'm pretty confident about our safety room. I actually like how the Jets have formulated their safety room, went about meeting that issue. I think the biggest issue with the Jets right now is wide receiver and D-line depth, which you can fix in the draft and free agency within the next couple of years. I mean, we're not going to win the Super Bowl this year anyway. So, I mean, that issue is going to be definitely fixable. And if Fields doesn't work out quarterback, but ultimately, I'm excited to see how this team shapes up. I think they're heading in the right direction. First off, and then, yeah, I mean, in terms of extending more players, I already touched on that earlier. We don't really need to at this moment. But John Simpson is very interesting. I mean, I would love to. I'd love to see John Simpson be extended. Obviously, he's a good locker room guy. Then Joe Tippmann, as soon as he needs it, he should be extended too.
I would. As soon as Joe Tippmann needs it, I really think the Jets should give him a bag, especially because if he continues, to play at the level he was last season. I believe Joe Tippmann is an unbelievable center for the New York Jets. So, yeah, these are quite some interesting names actually that we have here that the Jets should re-sign. Again, just spent over what? You paid Sauce. You're paying Sauce nearly $32 million annually, I believe, $30 million annually around that, and you're paying Garrett around that same exact price as well. So they're spending a lot of money. So it's going to be a little condensed when it comes to getting these guys re-signed. But I really hope for the best for all of these guys. If I had to list my top 3, I'd probably go Jermaine, AVT, and Quincy probably for my top 3.
I'd probably go AVT. I mean, it all depends. If Brees has a good season, he's at my number 2 slot behind AVT, and if Jermaine has a great season, he might be at number 1. But so it's like AVT, Jermaine, and Brees are the people I'm watching, and Quincy should get it as like ASAP. So I mean, the only guy who I'd like to see him extend actually like right now is like almost Quincy Williams. like him.
Gosh, I would love to see Brees shine this year. I hate how a lot of people say to me like I'm a Brees hater. I love Brees. I want
That's
nothing
disgusting.
but the best. I want nothing but the best for Brees Hall. Nothing but the best. But I'm just saying how it is, right? Brees Hall did not have a good season last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded at the deadline or let go after this season. But that's just how I feel. But in my heart, I really want Brees Hall to be with this team for his entire career. I really love Brees Hall's personality, and I think his potential is sky high. I really do, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, Brees is a guy who should remain in New York Jet. I mean, and if he plays bad, fine, you can deal him at the deadline. I mean, but if he's playing like, I don't even know if he's playing okay, you can just let him walk. I mean, but he has to be playing good to fantastic for him to either get a franchise tag or an extension. Which I would, if he's playing fantastic, I'd push for an extension at that point because you really want to keep and cherish those playmakers like we did with Garrett Wilson. So I mean, Brees is very interesting, and this year will be extremely telling for Brees, which it's another reason why I'm so excited to watch.
Yep. He's Chris. I'm Jack. That was another edition of Next Gen Jets on the Sunday show. Unfortunately, Connor couldn't make it, but he will be here back again on his next live stream sometime this week, hopefully, or the next time he streams. We'll be back. Me and Chris will be back next Sunday for Next Gen Jets. Again, he's Chris. I'm Jack. Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Next Gen Jets show. We'll be back next Sunday. And peace out, New York Jet fans.